everyone. Um, Tonight we're going to have a topic called Original Enlightenment. As always, we start the class with a bow and a recitation of the four great vows. So please join palms and bow. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings of self-nature. I vow to cut off endless vexations of self-nature. I vow to practice limitless approaches to Dharma of self-nature. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood of self-nature. Today's class is very apropos for our four great vows of self-nature because we're going to talk about original enlightenment, and you can use as a source the Wikipedia article on original enlightenment. So I'm kind of giving you that. That I use that as actually a very excellent article on in original enlightenment. And what it means by original enlightenment is your Buddha nature or Buddha nature as we see it. There's kind of two ways that we talk about it, and oftentimes writers will talk about sentient beings and the sentient beings practice. While that appears to be a little bit off, they're just using expedient language to talk to or communicate to the Buddha nature that is intrinsically within all sentient beings. So in fact, there aren't really sentient beings that are going to become enlightened as much as it is the mind enlightening itself to its own self-nature. And it is not the body of the phenomenal body of a person that can become enlightened. It is simply the awakening of the mind to the very fact that mind is mind, and is the same as if you were in a dream for a long time. We don't know how long a dream lasts, actually, so we can't say it was a long time. Maybe for a few seconds in that passed for a couple of hours in your dream, but all of a sudden you open your eyes and you go, oh, I really wasn't in a dream. I really wasn't there. That was just a dream. But in this way, when we talk about this and we talk about what's called samsara, it is awakening within the dream of samsara that enables the mind to be released from the shackles of the illusion that there is an ego, personality, life, or being that is encountering and experiencing samsara. In fact, it is only that the mind was dreaming. This is not very easy for us to understand or to believe, because we walk around thinking that this world is the reality. And so I've got to kind of put the hold back, because I'll get ahead of myself in terms of talking about this. But it is something that when we talk about this kind of a practice, it goes back very, very far. And as you will see in a moment. And in the beginning of this article on the Wikipedia, it talks about, and then somebody knows Chinese can correct me in the pronunciation of Bien Jie or Jie for original enlightenment. Is there somebody that knows that pronunciation that can say it in Chinese? Because it's important.
圆觉
Say it again, Dennis.
圆觉
Okay. This is this original enlightenment or innate awakening that's there. So those of you who understand Mandarin, then that's something that will be very helpful. If somebody wants to post a note as to the Chinese word, I have the Chinese word here, but it's very tiny to be able to see it. But it's important because this notion or is something that actually predates the the. Thank you very much, Esther. Um, Predates Chan Buddhism by centuries, and we'll get into that in a moment. But when we talk about this original awakenedness, it is also, we could say, the awareness of the mind, this non-conceptual wakefulness. So there is an awakening to the Mahayana. Mahayana here does not mean awakening to the Mahayana doctrine, because at that time there really wasn't that Mahayana doctrine. This was something that occurred in the 5th century, so it was predating Chan, and it was just at the dawning of Mahayana practice. But in that term of awakening faith of Mahayana, Mahayana meant the Buddha way, the Buddha vehicle, and saying that essentially going back to this idea of original enlightenment or Ben Jue. Uh, Again, I may have butchered it, but it's a Chinese meaning. But it's important because we need to establish that, because what we're seeing is in the practice of Mahayana, this comes over into China, and as it's coming over, there's what's called a sinification of Buddhism. This is very, very important because the Chinese put their own flavor on Buddhism, and it blended with Confucius notions and Taoist notions in terms of things, and essentially it was incorporated early on in this way so that it was palatable to the Chinese, something that they went, oh, you mean it's this? Oh, okay, I can go with that. And then they go, hey, this stuff's pretty good. But they had to use these terms in order to be able to understand this. So you will see this taste of Taoism and Confucianism in this Chinese Buddhist practice, and this is something that hold on a second here. Maybe I didn't bring it down with me. Of the East Asian Buddhism, because it's important for us to understand East Asian. Okay, I have it. Buddhism that came into prominence in China. Originally, there was a strong predominance of Pure Land practice that was there, and only a small pocket of Chan practice at that point. So this East Asian Buddhism or East Asian Mahayana doctrines um, is a collective term for the schools of Mahayana Buddhism. So there's a lot of different schools there, but they were named East Asian, which incorporated not just Chinese, but Japanese, Vietnamese, Korean, the most strongest ones, where this Mahayana Buddhism took hold, and they each put their particular flavor on it, but nevertheless maintain the idea of Mahayana and this idea of this sudden illumination or sudden enlightenment. The suddenness of it was the idea that one looks into the nature of mind and discovers that mind is mind, but that which is looking into it or thought to be looking into it was actually an illusory sentient being. That mind is what is pervasive and understands but the sentient being is not. It's limited, and it is, what's more importantly, created by mind, along with all phenomena. So this gets us to this notion we talked about last week, and somebody can put it up again, of Tiyong, this essence and function. And and this is very, very important as well, because it's a matter of looking into this. And actually, this Tiyong practice uh, began to emanate in China, um, around, I think it was, uh, uh, let's say, 1046 to 771 BC, not CE, but BC. There was already this notion of this essence and function. That's why it made it very easy for Mahayana Buddhism to be accepted in China, because the foundation of it was already there. Understand that Buddhism, in and of itself, does not have the complete exclusive uh, ownership of wisdom. So there was already this wisdom that was emanating in Chinese thought and doctrine. And so it was very easy, that understanding from the, and I probably butcher the Zhao or Zhao dynasty, it was already there. And this is important for us to understand, because I'm giving you doctrinally what's happening. I'm also giving you historically how this came about, and then the practice of it itself. All these things should be known for serious practitioners, to know the historical basis of it, and the timeline there, as well as doctrinally, and then also how we put that into practice. So we continue on. And again, this is something that it was understood that people didn't have to become Buddhas through religious cultivation. And it's very interesting. I was having some conversations with some of you about the term religious, and here this idea of religious cultivation is this, we could call it a verb rather than a noun, that there is this practice moving towards one becoming a Buddha. When Mahayana came in, and this idea, it adopted this Tiyong, this essence, and function, and we could call it by other names, phenomenal and the noumenon, which was adopted by the Huayan school, or the idea of seeing this essence as the Tathagata, and this Dharmakaya in the Indian schools of the Tathagata Garbha, the being mind ground. And so when these are seen, this Tiyong is not two things. It's not even one. It's simply mind itself. And it is that which becomes the awakening, without any person to become awakened except for Buddha nature itself. So there was an obstruction or obscuration, defilements, whatever we call it, that's there, that is presumably hiding our Buddha nature. But our Buddha nature is always present. We just don't understand it. We don't understand how it works. We have not been able to harness the power, our own intrinsic power that comes from mind itself. So we just get buried with these karmic forces that, as I mentioned, seemingly obscure the the true nature or Buddha nature, but it really doesn't. The mind is functioning perfectly in accordance with causes and conditions, pratika samappada. These causes and conditions never fail. Mind is still there, but it appears to be hidden by these obstructions. But these obstructions, as in the Diamond Sutra, are just illusions, phantasms, dreams. They're not real. They cannot affect the inherent mind. The inherent mind affects them. And in accordance with causes and conditions, which is the Buddha mind, things appear. The only thing that is the big bugaboo, the problem, is ignorance. Now, this ignorance is the ignorance of mind itself, not something separate from mind. Ignorance could not come and appear all by itself. We do not know the causes and conditions of mind which produce this ignorance. We don't even know how big this ignorance is. Truly, we don't know. How do we gauge how big this ignorance is? If we say that everything in the universe was produced by this ignorance, and how many universes are there? How many billions of Buddha worlds? Each of these Buddha worlds are universes. But in comparison to mind itself, it could be as minuscule as a tiny grain of sand or an electron, representing that in someone's body, one electron would still pale in comparison to the infinite nature of mind. This we cannot understand. If we could, I could be, on the corner selling enlightenment to everyone, saying, hey, here it is right here, read this, and you will understand it and you will become enlightened. But it isn't in this way. It is something that has to be awakened to. This is why we talk about that Chan is beyond words and phrases, the same as Nagarjuna's two truths. In Nagarjuna's two truths, the understanding of the middle way, go to the middle way. We go in between the idea of phenomenal reality and the idea of absolute reality. We cannot stay in absolute reality because it will just eventually just become some kind of a nihilistic exercise and what we call dark samadhi. On the other hand, we cannot just remain in the phenomenal world because that just produces lifetime after lifetime of ignorance, lifetime after lifetime of suffering. Even if we are having a good day, the reason that we have a good day is because there's bad days, right? That's why they say in the liturgy, joy will not last. A long, long time ago, I had this one stockbroker that was my student, and when once he came to class with his head down, I knew why he came to class with his head down because I was reading the the news during that time period. It was that long ago where things were on newspapers, and the stock market was going down, and he was so sad. And I said, That's great news. And he just looked at me and said, wait a minute. What do you mean that's great news? How can you say that that's great news? The stock market went down. And I said, it's great news for you. And he says, how is that great news? And I said, because if the stock market didn't go up and down, there'd be no use for your job. You wouldn't need to have a, a broker. And he scratched his head, and he realized, well, that's the way it is. So the secret of the game of the stock market is the same as gambling in Las Vegas. The only way to win is don't play it. If you're gambling, if you know what you're doing, you can play it. But if you're just gambling with it, then don't play it. But as much as it goes up, it will go down too. I've been living here for quite a long time in this rock, and I've seen the stock market go up and down, and I've seen it go up and down for the most inane reasons. You know, some prime minister somewhere passes gas, and all of a sudden the stock market goes down, or some tyrant poses a threat and it goes down. So the trick here in samsara is not to play the game. You don't play it. If you want to play the game of life, understand it is like you're playing with death, and you're playing tic-tac-toe with death, and death moves first. So you're going to lose almost every time. It's just that way. So this is why the one sutra of perfect enlightenment is talking that we are in the samsaric realm, but not of the samsaric realm. This too goes back to this notion of original enlightenment and Qigong, the essence of everything, the Tathagata, uh, the Tathagata Garba. Um, you can give it so many different names, but it is in this way that we understand what what the practice is. We understand that it is not found in the phenomenal world. It is something that creates the phenomenal world. This is so important for us to know. And it's there in the Chan liturgy. If you go to a retreat, you'll hear it all the time. To know all the Buddhas of the past, present, and future, perceive that all Dharma, Dhatu nature, all phenomena is created by the mind. This is original enlightenment, sudden enlightenment. Let's move on, because I don't want you just to listen to it from what I'm saying. Again, we're going to move through this a lot quicker than I'd really want to do that. I wish I had, a month solid to talk about all of this to you, but I just don't have that luxury to do that at this time. So we get to, in this doctrine of innate enlightenment was developed in Chinese Buddhism out of various Indian Mahayana ideas, such as Buddha nature, which is the Tathagata Garbha doctrine. And the Buddha nature Tathagata Garbha doctrine, that was something that was established by the more advanced sutras, which you should not shy away from because they're absolutely brilliant, such as the Shurangama Sutra. That's one that's a little more palatable. Srimala Devi, Tathagata Garbha Sutra, Nirvana Sutra, Ratnagotra Vibhaga Sutra. These sutras all talk about Buddha nature. I think Vilamakritti Sutra also is in that grouping. Um, and so when these are establishing this doctrine of this Buddha nature is the third turning of the Dharma wheel. The first being the Four Noble Truths. The second can be said to be established by the Heart Sutra, which the Heart Sutra is actually a Mahayana manifesto establishing what Mahayana is all about. No, it's not real. It's empty. So it's giving you the idea of empty in terms of this. It's empty or devoid of any phenomenal reality. Although this phenomenal reality appears in mind, it is just as the sutras say, a puff of smoke, um, a a morning star. It's there and then it's gone so quickly. Uh, and so when we see things, we see them as their ultimate reality. And this is where the all of these teachings are going to is this ability to straddle the phenomenal nature and the absolute. My goodness, that's the Madhyamaka school, the the truth of the relative truth and the absolute truth, where one doesn't put one down to take the other, or it is just simply this truth that is beyond words and phrases. It is mind itself. We cannot create mind. Mind is what creates. This is this sudden illumination that we get into. So I'm kind of varying a little bit from this text to try to make this where there's not just a sound hearer or Pratika Buddha presentation, but this more profound esoteric um, teachings that even transcend beyond Mahayana uh, uh, wisdom doctrine on emptiness. There is this third channel, which is this channel of mind itself. But it's just like humans, they cannot hear a dog whistle. If you can hear a dog whistle, then probably the last lifetime you were a dog. But if you blow a dog whistle, nobody can hear it. But nevertheless, it's there. We just don't have the range to do it because we're limited to the rules and laws of physical properties of samsara, which are not truly existent, nor are they non existent. They only exist conditionally or provisionally in this samsaric world. But mind is far beyond that. It's vast. Not only is it vast, but it's immutable. It doesn't change. Never been born, never been created. We cannot understand that. But we have to follow Nagarjuna and go into that middle way. Take the risk of jumping off the 100-foot pole. We continue. And again, I'm jumping through so much material. I feel like I'm really shamefully going through it. Sorry, because actually talking about it in this way is making me a little bit disoriented for the moment. Uh, um, the Chinese term itself is first mentioned in the awakening of the faith of Mahayana, and that was again in the 6th century, meaning that it's in the 500 CEs. And according to this treatise, it says the essence of mind is free of thought. the characteristic of that free of thought is analogous to a sphere of empty space that pervades everywhere. Sometimes when I use this idea of the sphere, I put arrows with an infinity marks on it to say that this sphere is not a sphere that is uh, like has borders to it, but it doesn't have any borders whatsoever to it. I'm not sure why my camera does that. It's moving, right? Maybe my mind is. Um, in any case, we continue with this. What's important here is where it says the sphere of empty space that pervades everywhere. And this is what they often refer to as in the 10 directions, meaning that from all directions, mind is. But we have to be clear about that in these 10 directions. It's infinite. Um, the one aspect of the world of reality, the Dharma Dhatu, which is phenomena, is none other than the undifferentiated Dharma body of the Dharmakaya, the essence body of the Tathagata. So, what it's saying here is this world of reality, the phenomenal world, is not separate from mind at all. It is held within the Dharmakaya or the Tathagata Garbha. And it's undifferentiated. This is very, very important that we see things in this way. It's not easy for us to do that. It's not easy for us to separate from our emotions. I love you. I don't like this person. You know, I love this politician, but I hate that politician. That's a very hard one sometimes, right? But in any case, it when we can see things in an undifferentiated way, then it helps us to do things. I've mentioned before, but once I was at a retreat, and Master Shen Yang Shifu, he said that what do you think? Should we invite a butcher to come to practice with us? And the people go, a butcher? Oh no! Every day they're killing, chopping off the heads of chickens and killing animals and stuff. They're murderers. That's horrible. And so the people were going, oh no, no, no. And so then Shifu asked me, he says, Gilbert, what do you think? And I said, if anybody, the butcher would be the one that would benefit the most from coming to a retreat. This is undifferentiated. We see that we don't worry about in this way or that way. We don't discriminate one bit. What we do is we accept all sentient beings. We understand the sentient beings in and of themselves are illusions that are caught up in the suffering. But in all those sentient beings, they have one common vein, which is Buddha nature, that ultimately trapped in the devices of the samsaric world is Buddha nature, just waiting to be liberated. But in fact, there's no liberation because the illusions that are trapping it are just merely illusions, just a dream. So it is originally liberated. This is sudden illumination when one can see that. When one can see that, then as they look through the world, they see the world very, very clearly, just as it is. This is the suchness of the mind. This is what we're looking for, is being able to look around and you see everything and you see the suchness of it. It is very important when we see things in this way, because this suchness is mind itself, undifferentiated. again, I keep repeating this, but I'm repeating it for a reason, in which is in the Asta Sutra, where it says, if someone says that they practice to save innumerable sentient beings, they are not really my student. That's what the Buddha said. They're not really my student. Why? Because the sentient beings are an illusion. Even though we talk about this and there's constantly references to sentient beings and becoming enlightened, in fact, it's an illusory uh, conceptual approach. But if we can bypass all of that and look directly into mind and say, originally, this very mind that we're using right now is the Buddha mind. We can cut kalpas off of our practice time. We can save a few, who knows how many lifetimes of suffering to be able to get to and cut right to the chase. What is the chase? Is that everything is created by the mind. This very mind that's listening to me now is the Buddha mind. Don't look for it elsewhere. So we continue on. Since the essence of the mind is grounded in Dharmakaya, it's to be called original enlightenment. Why? Because original enlightenment indicates the essence of mind in contradistinction to the essence of mind in process of actualization of enlightenment. So it's saying there's a distinction here between the sudden illumination, the sudden realization that just this mind that wants to become enlightened is already enlightened because it already is Buddha nature. This mind is not the body. This mind is the entire Dharmakaya. Why would you want to trade it? You know, it's like you're going in and you're trying, you have this car, you know, a 1978 Chevette. I don't know if any of you remember what a Chevette was like, but in any case, the 1978 Chevette, and you're polishing it and you're trying to turn it into a Rolls Royce. It's never going to be a Rolls Royce. Never. You have to keep polishing it until you realize it's never going to be a Rolls Royce, but the one that's polishing it holds all the wealth in the world, not just this world, but every single world, billions of worlds. Would you trade it for the Chevette? Would you trade it for this tired carcass that you haul around with you? Some of you are younger. If you're still young, then you'll know what a tired carcass is when you get to my age. So, but anyway, it's a different way of looking at it. This is why they're saying it in contradistinction to the essence of mind in process of actualization of enlightenment. It's someone that wants to and is aspiring to turn this sentient being body into the Buddha. It's not going to happen. It'll never happen. But if they practice long enough, they could realize it. But why not just realize right now, this very mind that you're using right now is the Buddha mind? Not bad, right? Buddha Dharma is easy if we slow it down and take a look at it and read it carefully. Then the words make sense. But if you just read this, I guarantee you, you're not going to understand it. You'll kind of understand it, but unless you really put the brakes on and slow down to penetrate it, and then all of a sudden it's like an explosion. Oh my goodness, you know, you're not looking at a, an old 1950s tube television set. it just explodes into this beyond what we have now, 3D hologram vision. The process of actualization of enlightenment is not other than the process of integrating the identity with the original enlightenment. So that process that one is going through is just bringing mind to mind. When we practice, every moment we bring mind to mind. I've always talked about how it clicks. One day you'll understand that. One day you'll see that, where it'll just go. You may even hear a click, even when you're practicing in meditation. And you're sitting there and you can get into a deep samadhi. All of a sudden, it's like a sudden freeze. There's an instant freezing or a click, like a crispness that happens in mind. That it's always been there, but we have this flies flying around. Gilbert keeps flying around ego, going, is it there yet? I'm tired. I'm hungry. My legs hurt. Whatever. Just buzzing around. But when we don't pay attention to that, then the mind will naturally go into mind. Voila, it's there. It's always been there. Always been there. It's our true nature. Why not practice in this way? So when we sit to meditate, we're resting the body, resting the mind in mind. You are not resting. You are not trying to shut off your thoughts. You're not there with one eye open looking to see if you become enlightened or you're getting close. It's foolishness. Why not practice the profound? Why not demonstrate it moment to moment? Then you will not be too far from it. We continue on. So it says, awakening of faith also identifies the inherent enlightenment with true suchness. I had mentioned that before. It is this Tathagata Garbha. According to Jacqueline Stone, the awakening of faith sees original enlightenment as true suchness considered under the aspect of conventional diluted consciousness, and thus denotes the potential for enlightenment in unenlightened beings. In other words, saying, even though you're not enlightened, if you place mind into mind, you have that ability to do that with the proper practice. No matter what, it's going to happen, whether you take the long way around the mountain and practice polishing the tile to make it a diamond, or go straight through and the mountain will shatter before you, because there's nothing to support that mountain. We see it as this iron mountain, but it's just merely a puff of smoke, a vapor. And when the mind settles and is clear, all of that vanishes. No need to go all the way around the mountain. The mountain is neither existent nor non-existent. It is there and is subsumed, meaning that it's absorbed by mind. But more importantly, in that process, your ideation as an ego, personality, life, or being is also subsumed. It is when the mind subsumes, absorbs these and all phenomenal nature, letting them be undifferentiated, because they're not separate from mind. We cannot brush them away and say they're gone. Where did they go? This is a story of Baizong's ducks with Matsu. where would they go? This story where Matsu took Baizong to the lake to practice, and the ducks were flying by. And Matsu said, I wonder where the ducks went to. And then Baizong said, oh, they went that way. And Matsu twisted his nose. It was a great twist because in that moment, he became enlightened. Indeed, where would the ducks go? I wish I had that power to be able to twist somebody's nose and have them become enlightened. But I'd have to have them sign a waiver for release of liability. Because he must have twisted it very, very hard. But in any case, it is this, the point is that where would it go? It cannot go outside of mind. The ducks, even if they fly outside of the viewpoint, away from the lake, did they go anywhere? How could they go anywhere? They're simply a manifestation of mind in flying over a manifestation of the lake. All of that appearing in accordance with causes and conditions, all of those things being created by mind itself. When the mind is undifferentiated, it is liberated. Okay. The idea is further discussed in the influential commentary to the Awakening of Faith, titled On the Interpretation of Mahayana. And this is, I'll butcher it in Chinese, She Mohe Yan Lun. Somebody can type it out in Chinese if you understood what I said. The interpretation of Mahayana. Again, Mahayana here is not even a doctrine at this point as much as it is the Buddha mind, the highest vehicle. Yana meaning vehicle, Maha meaning highest vehicle. And they say original enlightenment is also found in the influential East Asian work, Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment, something that some study group is working on, the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment. And you're right on track in studying the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment. It is just an absolute amazing sutra that further explains and goes deeper into this far beyond the awakening of faith in Mahayana, because the awakening of faith is the beginning primer. It's the starting. It's the dawning of Mahayana. And by the time it gets to perfect enlightenment, it's seen in a way that's very amazing. And that sutra starting with what we were talking about, which is this enlightenment that is the original enlightenment. And then it moves through, and each chapter kind of gets down to more practice points and to show sudden and gradual are compatible in terms of the practice. And for those that didn't get the first part, which was pretty profound and deep, they can still practice the later chapters, which are a little bit more understandable. But in any case, it's a wonderful sutra that I recommend that you do. And this was one also that Master Sheng did a book on complete enlightenment. Okay, we continue on. So the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment explains the inherent enlightenment or perfect enlightenment as a source of all phenomena, which are ultimately illusory. No, Sariputta, they're not real. They're empty. Drawing on the essence function thought, so this is from the sutra, good sons, I should say good sons and daughters. All sentient beings, various illusions are born from the perfectly enlightened, marvelous mind of the Tathagata. Um, just like sky flowers come to exist in the sky, even though the illusory flowers vanish, the nature of the sky is indestructible. So if things vanish, if the ducks vanish from mind, they don't really vanish. They're they're indestructible. I'm sorry. Um, probably working too hard today. Um, where am I at? The illusory mind of sentient beings also vanishes based on illusion. And while all illusions are utterly erased, um, the enlightened mind is unchanged. This is what we talk about. It is immutable. The mind never changes. But the phenomena that occurs within it is constantly changing. But it doesn't matter whether it changes or not because it's there's nothing there for it to change because it's ultimately empty. It's just sea foam, nothing more than that. Can you can sea foam support you? No, it can't. In the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment, there's a wonderful uh, verse there talking about how sentient beings float on the ocean. Think about that. This ocean that is there and is uh, these images of sentient beings. They're floating there. Um, I'm going to finish with that right now. I'm having a little bit of trouble concentrating for some reason. So I'll open it up to questions. No questions? There we go. Okay, Jake, the dynamic duo. Good.
Hi,
Go
Gilbert.
ahead, Jake.
Um, well, you said you would take a break after or around the holidays, but you never did. So I hope you do take care of yourself.
I'm
Um,
always resting, Jake.
good. Um, I had a question about a passage that I returned to from the Surangama Sutra on the inverted cause of sentient beings that was related to what you talked about today. And this statement that uh, phenomena are sort of fundamentally at the root kind of produced by ignorance. And I think that I had had a sort of understanding that this was like ignorance was like a fall from grace, and there were sentient beings who weren't sort of out of tune, and suddenly ignorance crept in, and there became this perception of separateness. And that is what fundamentally created sentient beings, is that they're not real in the sense that if a tree fell in the forest and nobody was around to hear it, would it make a sound? That somehow that was sort of my understanding, but I feel like there's kind of a more radical statement, which is that if uh like absent this ignorance, there wouldn't even exist sentient beings, and it's kind of karma that sustains what was initially born as a result of ignorance and reproduces sentient beings. And I'm just wondering, I know this is not something that you can give a clear answer for, but maybe if you could say that my previous understanding was sort of incorrect. There's something deeper than just saying that the awareness of separateness, the perception of separateness isn't quite the whole story.
There was this, um, and I have to forgive. please forgive me beforehand. Okay, I'm trying to bring myself back into Gilbert, but there was this bartender that was seeing a horse that came out of the bar across the street, and it was wobbling coming into his bar, and the horse said, "I want some whiskey." And the bartender says, "No, I'm not going to give you any whiskey." And they said, "Why not? You're drunk. I saw you wobbling across the street. You're drunk." And the horse said, "I think not." Okay, so here's the problem with the joke, because I messed it up. I should have reversed it, but I put Descartes before the horse. Anybody understand that? Sorry. Descartes, it says, "I think, therefore I am." The problem with your analysis is that in the 12 nidanas there is uh, ignorance. It's not until the 11th and the 12th, the 11th, where a sentient being is created, is the birth. So the sentient being was not simultaneously created from ignorance. It was a progression. So you have to separate out that this fundamental ignorance was the ignorance of mind, not the ignorance of the sentient being. The sentient being is a product of creation of pratika samappada that was magically produced at that time in terms of how it was, but you have to follow the sequence of the 12 nidanas to see all of these other things, from sensation and desires and everything that's arising. Then comes the sentient being. So we can't lay the blame on sentient beings, as they're just an illusion, a creation of mind, but a progression of ignorance. This is very, very important, because this is a gate that you can enter into by seeing it in this way. We go back to the ignorance and we contemplate the ignorance. We go back to the source of the ignorance and understand that before the ignorance was the primal mind. This is established by Virochana Buddha, which was the primeval Buddha before ignorance even came up. This is why they talk about primordial Buddhas, because they did not have this quote unquote stain of this defiling ignorance that's there. Even though we know that the defiling ignorance is an illusion, it's a creation of mind. But when we see it in the right way, we don't put the cart before the horse. And we don't blame it on the sentient being. Sentient being, but for the ignorance, was all these steps that got up to the point of birth and death. And the whole thing just keeps going in that way. So hopefully that'll help you understand this a little bit. If not, then my cheap joke might remind you of that. It's actually not that cheap of a joke. It's quite intellectual. I'm surprised some of you even got it. But in any case, that's it. Okay, Shloka.
Thank you.
See if I have a joke for you.
Gilbert, Amitabha, thank you so much for all of the classes. I've been wanting to ask you, is it appropriate to see this body as an avatar that is made up of mind and provisionally appearing in mind? Because as a layperson now, I was wondering how to relate to this physical body when going about everyday activities in samsara, because it's only here in the Sangha that it's natural to say that self is not self. But everywhere else, whether it's with family or friends or work or anywhere, we use conventional language to talk about what we do in our lives and so on. And it just felt like that could reify or reinforce this idea and narrative of an individual self. And so I was trying to find a different perspective, and I realized that it could be just like having an avatar, that we each have a different body, personality, and life situation, but we need not attach to any of it, understanding that these avatars are just temporary projections of the mind on mind that change lifetime to lifetime. And the most useful thing to do, the function, is to use this precious human body to awaken to the dream and to help others awaken too. So just wanted to ask if this understanding is okay.
Before I respond, could you kindly, because some people may not know what an avatar is, could you define an avatar?
Um, Kind of like in a video game, you choose an avatar to represent you, and it's an appearance that's put together.
Well, like a
But it
video
isn't
game,
yeah.
you can be Mario, riding in a cart or whatever. It's not really real. You're
Yeah.
the one that's guiding it. So the reason I mentioned that is because it is a pretty good analogy that you can use, and you can use it when you begin to teach people, that it's like an avatar. It's not something that's real, but it functions within the game, and you can do different things when you're in the game, whatever it is. The game here is this game of samsaric life. And so you don't cling. I don't cling to Gilbert that much. I still cling to it. If I completely abandon Gilbert in terms of everything, then I would say that would be complete enlightenment. But I'm not there. But on my better days, there's less and less Gilbert appearing there that believes that he's actually in a game playing something. It is just simply it. If something has to be done, it's done. Gilbert still comes in sometimes and says, "Oh, why don't we just, do something else?" But when he applies himself, you know, then there's not much of Gilbert there, as Jake noted. I'm resting, but I'm still processing and writing quite a bit. I've been quite prolific in that way, but it's not me, it's just mine. So it isn't necessarily bad to look at it in this way that you see it. There's the one, um, I think his name was Tibetan Rinpoche, that said that as you begin to practice, it appears that the mind separates into two, that it is seen, there is a knowing mind, a perceiving mind that is viewing what's happening. And in this way, it's kind of very similar to what you're talking about as an avatar. It doesn't claim that it is that body, but it begins to see things in a way in which it sees the totality of consciousness, the totality of awareness that's there around it, surrounding it. And then that later becomes a totality far beyond anything that a samsaric individual could perceive through the five skandha. The five skandha really is muting the ability of the mind to function and obscuring the essence. Because it obscures the essence, then it also limits the function of the mind in this way. If that helps you, then use it in that way, that you understand that your avatar is limiting you. you're clinging to this notion of a personality, ego, life, or being is limiting you. When you don't cling to it, then the essence naturally appears. Your questions are very good questions. Good. Let's try Sam now.
Amitofo, Gilbert.
A
Thank you
little
for the
louder,
lecture.
please.
Amitofo, Gilbert. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your lecture, as always. Similar to Jake, I have a Sharingama charged question. And it's relative to something you touched on today in the lecture when you were talking about the absence of is or is not. In the second volume, I just don't want to butcher the particular part. In the second volume, this in the chapter called Seeing Transcends the Ordinary, the Buddha says to Ananda, thus you should know that the essential, enlightened, wonderful brightness is due to neither causes nor conditions, and it does not arise spontaneously. And then he follows that with, it is not that which is not spontaneous. It is not that, this sounds just like how you talk, by the way. It says, it is not that it is not, nor is it that it is not not. It is not that which is or is not. And my question is does the Buddha say this because Ananda is holding an inverted view? Like the inverted view being that the true nature, the true essential brightness, the seeing, all this, it couldn't be due to causes and conditions because causes and conditions, spontaneity, all of the is or is not, these are concepts created by the mind. So to say that the mind or the true nature is due to those things, that would be an inverted view. That's what I'm trying to see here because it kind of sounds like Ananda's trying to say that, you know, the true nature, the wondrous, luminous nature is due to causes or conditions, or it's due to spontaneousness, things like that. And this would be inverted because all those things, phenomena, are due to the mind. Their essential substance is the mind. I guess I'm checking to see if my view is inverted as well.
Understood. Let me do this. I'm going to open it up. If anybody has um, a way of explaining that, let's see what kind of talents out there to explain this to Sam. It's a good question. It's a very good question, and it goes right to the essence of the Shurangama Sutra. Any well-known advisors want to step up? How are you going to learn to be a teacher? All right, Santa.
So Sam, the nature of mind is not created. It cannot be created. So that which is, I think I'm going to, the brightness.
A little louder, please. I'm sorry.
The brightness, the essential brightness, that is the nature of mind. That is not created.
So it wouldn't, that's why the Buddha is saying that then, right? Because it's not created, so it couldn't be due to causes, conditions, spontaneously.
It's not arising. It's not ceasing.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
The erroneous view of him is that he is clinging to a view. Right view is not a view. It is the suchness of mind. So any view that he brings up, Ananda brings up, any kind of view, it's going to be shot down. Mm-hmm. Because there is no person that can maintain a view. Ultimately, all of that is a house of cards which collapses. And that's what the Shurangama Sutra is all about, is collapsing the house of cards of any kind of an idea that there is a view at all. Again, so when I say right view, it is not something that is truly a view. Even when we say turn the mind's eye inward, there's no inward or outward. There is just simply seeing the suchness of things. Inward means essentially to see the mind's own intrinsic nature, which means the source. This is not a viewpoint, it is just the suchness of mind. So when you see it in this way, this is the wonderful Shurangama Sutra in terms of it, it is what it's trying to make a point of, and Ananda is us struggling to try to figure this out. So long as we hold to some kind of a view, we cannot get it. And so this is so long as we do that, we will be far from it, because we think that we can do that, but it's just simply the suchness of mind. So good question. Yeah, it's a good question. And these are the kind of questions that I think people should bring up here. You know, they're insightful questions that help you begin to understand this, and also begin to have people able to answer them, and to see them in this way. So thank you, Santha, for your contribution to that as well. Anything else?
No, thank you, Gilbert, and thank you, Santha. You guys are the best.
No problem. Okay, Robert, let's see what you got.
Gilbert, thank you for your lecture. I have a practice-related question relating to what you mentioned today, about 7:15, around that time. You say something that strike me like almost like a 2x4, give me a whack. It's like a remote whack. And it's still echoing in my brain. And it sounds too simple, but it sounds so profound. And it almost sounds like the Alibaba Open Sesame to me. It's like, didn't you just told us what the password is to mind? You say, I quote you, you say, mind is the absence of thought. Mind is absence of thought. Just this few simple words. It's almost, I don't know, it's called Huato or what, but it's so profound. I just would like you to maybe elaborate a little more, because it is so useful. I felt that it is very useful in daily practice.
If I gave you another cup of slop, it would ruin everything. Just simply just stay with that. This is the source. There's nothing more that we can say about that. Just stay with the source. Just stay in the source without you being involved at all. Just let the source manifest. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just do that. These are what are called turning phrases, and it's just, I've had many of you have these turning phrases recently, and it's wonderful for me to see that where it goes in, and it's not something that somebody can mimic or say the same thing. Mind will know if it's sincere or legitimate. If there's my comments to you will reveal whether it's there or it's a not yet, or just keep practicing. It's something that's good. It's from sincere practice that brings that about. Causes and conditions never fail. Okay, good. So Wei Shan.
Hello, Gilbert. Can you hear me?
Oh, barely.
Yeah. Sorry, my headset is not working. How about now?
A little better.
Okay.
sound like you're from on the moon.
I'll try one more time. If it doesn't work, and I'll give up. Hello.
I can hear you. It's part my bad hearing and part your connection.
Yeah. Sorry.
Just
Maybe,
talk loud.
Okay, I'll try.
That's it.
Um, um, the Jake's question and your answer about 12 nidanas was wonderful. It made me think about the Suragama Sutra about word ignorance. It's very cool. It's you when you explain the birth, which is the 11th. It originally come from ignorance, but ignorance is not my ignorance. Ignorance is created by the mind. But I think in Suragama Sutra it talk about how that ignorance come from. And I hope one day you can give us a class to explain that process. I think it's like the world is created first, then the beings come to the world, the people, the sentient beings. Um, it basically explained the original mind in here. In today's class, we talk about the original mind. It has a quality of a silence and the illumination, but the illumination can know that silence. That create a sense of self, like I can see all this. That original original enlightenment can be known by mind itself, but that create a sense of like I know this, and that create a sense of self. That's how the world came about. And I that process I don't know the detail, but I hope someday you can give a class for this part of Suragama Sutra. Thank you.
It's very interesting what you're talking about, and I think it's something that I have to go through and talk about the 12 nidanas. This is a big key. It was the original training of Shakyamuni Buddha, and he nailed it from the very beginning. And it was just the inability of sentient beings to be able to understand it. And so it was difficult. But yes, if you can understand this, it can be a very strong gateway to transcending samsara. And again, I say these things with hesitancy in terms of transcendence, because there's nothing to transcend to. It is just to awaken the Buddha mind. But this whole idea, because this is building on what Jake was talking about, that originally there was no mirror stand bright. There was no where dust could alight. This is sudden illumination, or the Southern School of Chan. When we see it and we understand that it is simply from mind's own ignorance that appearances come. When we see that, then we are less likely to claim ownership of this red meatball that moves around, but we can use it. Shloka, you can use this red meatball very effectively. It can take away mundane suffering throughout the world, wherever you want to go. But it can also be an incredible liberation of people, as well as you help them in their mundane needs and sufferings, and alleviating that. You can also show them this precious Dharma, and they will be more likely to do that because you're demonstrating it. All of this all connects in, and this is what all of you are doing right now. The difficulty is, please have faith, please have patience with what I'm telling you. Lately, I've been kind of mentioning that where I come from in the teachings is similar to the a sangha being taught by by Milafo Maitreya into Sita Heaven that he was taught, and in the evening, and then he would come back to earth and to present the Dharma that he was taught, but he could not teach everything that he learned from Milafo because it was just too profound for sentient beings to understand. It is only through going to the source that one opens that door to doing that. Again, I'm not putting myself in the same category um, as anybody so profound, but I as a sangha, but it is in this way that if one touches the absolute, it's difficult to explain it, but it's something that it is a beckoning to people to be able to try uh, to bring about their own realizations. We cannot do that. We cannot bring them to that. They have to do it themselves. But presenting right view gives them a better opportunity. Even if they don't understand it completely, they know that this is the way, this is the Tao in terms of doing that. Everything created by the mind. And so when we understand that, we put that into motion and we demonstrate it moment to moment to moment. It is the demonstration that will bring about the realizations. So I'll leave it there for now, but this is what's happening with all of this, and this is what Shakyamuni Buddha was presenting to Ananda, to let go of any kind of views, let go of any dualistic thinking, and just let mind naturally manifest by non-differentiation, non-discrimination, as said in the Asta Sutra. Okay. All right. Idil, there you are.
Hi. Thank you for the lecture today, Gilbert. And I really enjoy when things go slow because it's, I feel like I'm capturing things, although I really need time for those to sink in. But thank you so much for going fast by going slow. So your examples that you used in today's lecture kind of made me think about this, and I wanted to ask. So if there's not me at all, and it's just mind itself that is listening to the Dharma from mind here tonight. In other words, if there's truly no separate self, so yeah, if it's just mind knowing mind, then why is it still questioning what's about right and wrong view? Why it doesn't immediately know the non-conceptual seeing, knowing of mind, and that immediately dissolves all the doubt?
It is because of fundamental ignorance and the arising of the 12 nidanas that obscure the original luminescence of the mind and the brilliance of the mind, and that it is lost in that. Now understand that it's only lost in samsaric realms, which are, in terms of the context of Buddha mind, little grains of sand of universes. And so, but in those little grains of sand in universes, it's like to the Buddha, a tiny grain of sand that's in the Buddha's sandal. Maybe now he's wearing, some other Birkenstocks or something. But in any case, every time that he steps, he, she, whatever, steps, there is a knowledge there that there is some kind of suffering. in the body, not the Buddha, but there's a suffering there, even though it's illusory, created by the mind. There's an interest in wanting to take care of it. But when we say that there is an obscuration of the mind, in fact, there's no obscuration of the mind whatsoever. It is only from the viewpoint of samsara, from a dream, that's that way. So if you had a dream that you were very, very poor, and then you woke up from the dream, you do not take that dream and together with you and say, I'm poor because I was poor in the dream. Awakening, then you awaken to how incredibly wealthy you are, how so much riches. But when you're in the dream, you think you're poor. We have a saying in Spanish, I don't know if Letty's still around. Yeah, we say you're poor, por pendejo. Por pendejo means because you're ignorant, is why you're poor. But poor in Spanish just means because you're ignorant. It's this way, and so we move away from that ignorance. We listen to the Buddha Dharma. We have faith in the Buddha Dharma, faith in Mahayana. And when we do this, it changes everything. So you're no longer clinging to this appearance of that you can or can't do it. It is simply the fact that one attaches to the samsara, that they cannot escape from samsara. They create this magically produced bottle that traps them like a goose inside the bottle. But there is no trapping. There is truly no liberation nor any attainment, because the mind is originally enlightened. So we bring it all full circle to the beginning of this lecture. So thank you very much for your question. And I'll take one from Renee, and that should be it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Gilbert. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I have noticed that in my recently few questions, your responses has consistently pointed towards no self. That's really caught my attention. I realized that behind everything, like thinking, acting, there is a perceived self hiding in the background. And in reality, this I is just an assumption. Okay, failing to let go of this I would be the most fundamental error. Is that correct? If so, how can we detect this hidden self?
You use wisdom for that. But here's the little kicker with all of this. We cannot attach to no self. There's still self-nature of mind. It is not, the self-nature of mind is not an individual. It's the collective mind everywhere that doesn't dwell anywhere, but is able to use the senses to contemplate. It is free from discrimination and differentiation, but it is your original face or your original mind. So we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We simply see that this mind is the Buddha mind. And it has a function. That's why we talk about essence and function, Tiyong, meaning that there's the essence, which is what you're referring to, but the Yong is the function. And so that function is separate and apart from the skin bag or the meatball. It is the function of mind itself, an interest of mind to remove the suffering of sentient beings, even though understanding that those sentient beings are illusory. It is this middle ground that you work towards, okay? And so hopefully this will help you in terms of this. If you say it's just mine, I say no mine. You say no mine, I say just mine. It is just the way that masters speak, okay? But yeah, it's a good question. All the questions today have been very good. I apologize. I finished earlier. I just was having trouble staying in samsara, and my mind wanted to move like gone, and so that was difficult. For me to speak in that time, so I apologize for that. I guess that's something I can't say it was expected, but it's just something that it just happens sometimes. So I'll try to keep the rabbit ears on the station. And if you don't know what rabbit ears are, then you're very young. So the rabbit ears on the TV station where you used to try to get a station in. Anyway, so thank you for this. Was to me, I felt a very productive class for all of you. You know, you're listening very well, and I will continue to go this deep if there's the people that so want to have a class like this. Amitabha.